The redesigned WRX got released last Friday. It's baby driver time. Let's get right into it. We've all seen so many openers to adrenaline-driven movies. Pretty much every James Bond movie has one. Mission Impossible throws in a few. Good heist movies like The Town. Anyway, we all know the purpose they serve. When you have a chase scene to set up, you have two parties, the predator and the prey. Or the chaser and the chased. If your movie is about the chaser, then you need to show how fast they are and how they use their brains to catch the chased. If your movie is about the chased, meaning any heist movie, then you need to show usually not how fast they are, but how nimble they are in evading their pursuers. To provide mental cues, studios have a trick they use to help audiences reinforce what the main character is doing in a chase scene. I detail it a little bit more in another video, but the typical chase scene is set up in two ways. If the main character is the pursuer, then more likely than not they're chasing the pursuant to the right of the screen, because you want them to progress and win, and the positive direction is always to the right. If the main character is being chased, then what they're doing is running away, and so they're almost always running to the left of the screen. Check out that first scene of Baby Driver. After Baby's fun sing-along and Bell Bottoms starts blaring with the sirens, then Baby and his team is set up to the audience as the runaways. As soon as John Bernthal's Griff fits his way into a comfortable position in the passenger seat, he points his finger in the expected direction, straight to the left to run away. But Baby, he's not escaping the pursuers. He's leading them. Check that out the next time you see a chase scene. The new James Bond, No Time to Die, should have some promising chases. Is he going right or left? But aside from it being choreographed as the perfect chase scene, then that choreography driven smartly and beautifully, we have an amazingly modified getaway car in the form of a 2006 base model WRX. And yes, despite its STI trappings, the production studio gathered 5 stock WRX models with a mixture of mechanical differences. One difference being that there were 2 automatics sprinkled into the curated lineup. But I'm getting ahead of myself. How did Baby come to the desirable conclusion of a dressed up Subaru WRX? Heck, was Baby even the one behind the decisions? Each name in this movie is an alias for the specific character. Baby's given name is actually Miles, but Baby best describes the relationship everyone has with the young kid. It also describes the transformative moment in his life when he lost his parents. Buddy's real name is Jason, Darling's is Monica, and Bats is actually Leon. Buddy is a friend until he loses his darling, and Bats is obviously crazy. Based on these names, it'd be easy to assume that Doc, the one with the smart name, chooses every element of a hit before it goes down. But after setting up the second heist of the movie and describing inaudibly his plan, he asks for questions. The getaway car hasn't been set at this point, just a rough prompt if we do some lip reading. But after Doc is finished with his description, he leaves Baby to select the getaway car. And since Bats isn't convinced Baby was listening with his headphones in, I'm a teacher, I get that, we get the opportunity to hear Baby list off a selection of possibilities. For the actual heist, we get the purpose-fitted 2007 Chevrolet Avalanche. Inconspicuous, yet versatile, something family-friendly but on the heavy side in case we need to run the police off the road.
Escalade, Yukon, Avalanche, whatever.
And while Doc provides the general prompt of commuter family car, he never names anything specific for Baby to choose. Baby is more than capable of making that decision. As explored previously, the first picture car of the movie is patterned to look like an STI, but each model used was just a base all-wheel drive Subaru WRX, tricked out for the various segments of the chase scene. For each maneuver, there were different requirements involved. As just a cursory example, most drift vehicles are in a rear-wheel drive configuration, and Baby Driver is no different. The drift scenes used a modified Subaru so that it would be a rear-wheel drive WRX. With 5 total vehicles, stunt driver Jeremy Fry had plenty to work with. For most of the in-car scenes, there was one completely stock manual picture car. Another manual with approximately 320 horses, a performance clutch, and swap differentials served as the main stunt vehicle for the stunt driver to perform the more technically crafted full-frame shots. A couple of automatics were used for those more straightforward interior shots of the car through the streets of Atlanta. Controls in the cabin are dressed up in case there are any stray shots of the shifter. While strapped to the roof, there was Jeremy, seated with all of the real driving controls. Of the 5 used, all of them utilizing the 2.5-liter boxer engine to command our attention. The 320 horsepower stunt-driven manual and the 200 horsepower rear-wheel drive drifter. Let's begin with the all-wheel drive variant. Based out of Atlanta, the filming location and setting of Baby Driver, Allpro Subaru undertook the task of modifying the performance WRXs by swapping in an STI drivetrain, Cusco Limited slip rear differential, an OS Geek-In front differential with a heavier performance Exity Stage 1 clutch. Now, my Picture Cars videos have two audiences, both the movie and the car enthusiast. So what does that all mean? The STI drivetrain provides the power for the vehicle, but between the engine and the tires you need components that can handle the increased power. Many newly installed turbos will break a high mileage transmission, for example. Allpro swapped in a clutch, which is a part of the transmission, and since it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, they provided new front and rear differentials. A heavier clutch setup will provide more internal pressure, meaning your shifts won't slip, and as a result, will be smoother. Stage 1 just means it's the most comfortable to drive on the road, while still being ready for race-worthy performance. Stage 5 clutches create a vehicle that drives well at the track, but will be uncomfortable to drive inconspicuously on the streets of Atlanta. Stage 1 being perfect for the initial getaway car. In other words, a car that would otherwise be at the low RPM range, but can manage the high rev, and shifting smoothly when needed. Differentials are a whole different ballgame, which I can better explain with first talking about the drive shaft of a normal rear-wheel drive vehicle. These are the most commonly seen drive shaft types, extending from a long transmission to a rear differential, a subassembly which converts rotational direction 90 degrees so that the tires can roll forwards and backwards. The drive shaft is a long piece of drawn steel, a pipe. You know what else is a pipe? A straw. If you were to apply rotational force to a straw, it would eventually twist and or break. If you were to apply it to a steel pipe, there is still that minimal twist, but the rotation coming from the engine is more easily transferred to the tire. There's a little bit of loss, not just in the drive shaft, which is why you get a different number when comparing horsepower at the wheel and at the engine, also known as crank horsepower. Now that's explained, let's look at the internals of a differential. To simplify it, the differential is a bunch of gears and bearings. The tooth of a gear needs to be both hard and flexible. Too hard and the teeth will be brittle and shatter when high rotational force is applied. Too flexible and the teeth will bend and lock up the internals from rotating. So changing these components once again allows the optimal transfer of crank horsepower to wheel horsepower while still being healthy for street driving. Yes, this is a car video, so we could dive into it more, but this is meant to be an entry video for the movie enthusiast as well. There are many relevant videos which will help you better understand these components, and I'll try to link some of the best ones in the description below. Maybe a final question you may have: why have a front and rear differential from two different brands? In an all-wheel drive vehicle, the front and rear wheels behave differently from each other by nature. These two companies have differently focused components and allow for the desired behavior for the front tire's rotation and the rear tire's rotation. Since there's a lot of turning or cornering and some level of desired slip on the pavement, the front needs to steer and act as a pinion point while the rear continues the vehicle body's rotation. Let's get into the 200 horsepower rear-wheel drive variant. The scene itself required two important modifications, one done to the car for stunt practice, the other came on the day of shooting when they realized their practice and performance tracks had a different grip with the tires. Under a racing scenario, you could change the tires to a slicker tread pattern and promote the slip against the pavement, but stunt coordinator Robert Nagel decided to go the cheap route and throw out some water. Dangerous under normal circumstances, but a challenge handled with relative ease by Jeremy. With the two drift scenes came a rear-wheel drive setup and custom handbrake. Both the aforementioned all-wheel drive and this rear-wheel drive were tuned out of Georgia's Allpro Subaru, which has been serving the Atlanta community since 2009, doing more than just tire and suspension upgrades and going so far as modifying the engine block with newer pistons and valves. Both were given the performance clutch upgrade, but this drivetrain's power was purposefully reined in since the focus isn't flat-out speed on four tires, but rather nimble maneuverability. The lower horsepower provides quickness, but you can also think about it this way. Instead of 320 horsepower spread through four wheels, you're getting 200 horsepower transferred through 2 rear wheels. You'll get some crazy whips on a slick corner if you're not careful. To initiate that drift, most times you need a handbrake. You can do without, but it's trickier. Anyway, for a split second, we can see Baby initiate with the stock handbrake, but the stunt vehicle actually had its own handbrake CNC cut for Jeremy's driving. But let's talk about the tires before finishing out this video. Ricciardo appropriately said that this chase would go through tires really quickly, especially when you lock wheels and essentially grind the tires against the coarse asphalt. No surprise that there are 5 vehicles to spread the wear of the tire through all 5 cars. Allpro Subaru outfitted each model with the same pairing of Ironman's iMove all-season tires on 17-inch ICW racing wheels. The wheels you can get shipped to your Weekend Warrior garage for $120 a piece or $480 for the set. The exact tires Ironman doesn't make anymore since they've developed a 2nd generation model and have started production on the 3rd generation iMove tire. Overall, the iMove name has garnered impressive reviews, with majority of buyers saying they would purchase them again. And while the wheels literally say racing on the hub, the overall spoke design is more hidden and understated. So while Baby was searching the suburbs of Atlanta for a tailored getaway car, seeing the racing tires with the normal all-season tires mounted means the car could blend into downtown Atlanta. Lucky for us, it made its presence known on screen. Baby has free reign whenever it comes to providing the getaway vehicle. He's gained that knowledge and that trust over his years of service in Doc's crew. Is this the right vehicle for Baby's bank heist? Heck yeah. While Baby likely had a wealth of heist cars at his choosing, I'm glad we got to see the WRX get some representation on the big screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.